Democracy is nothing else than, well, an excuse for the state to do whatever they simply want. Now, I'm sure many people will react badly to this because mainly some people still believe in the effects of democracy. They have been raised to believe that democracy is the result and it is the salvation of literally everything. But here I am, welcome back to my YouTube channel, a place where I discuss different topics on introspective ideas and share some of the thoughts that I receive. And in this video, I will share some of the points that I've seen throughout time about democracy. Now, the point is, I'm not going to demonize democracy because I'm not ever going to join a side, be it the one pro or the side against. Now, when you join a side, that means that you identify yourself with something. When you identify yourself with something, as I've been saying in previous videos, you give meaning to things, and well, that means one little thing, one little aspect. When you give meaning to things, that's technically a self-destruction button. Because when you give meaning to something and you identify yourself with that, you only see that which is it, okay? You see only that and nothing else. Technically, you may also see different other aspects, different other things, but the point is, you're gonna dispatch those, you're gonna dismiss those because identification means separation. And identification with something occurs as a response based on ignorance. It is the response of ignorance because when you are ignorant to life as it is and its layers and its complexity, you'll always play little roles in your mind and in the physical bodies that you will use as vessels in different lifetimes. The point is you will play different roles, right? You will simply have different, let's say, dream lives, okay, or lives as dreams, as I call them, because many people believe that their life is like a dream, okay? I'm not gonna use dream-like because it means something completely different. So these life as a dream, right, existences, they are not very good necessarily, but they help people understand certain things and learn certain aspects and, well, let's say, pile on their spiritual wisdom. Now, the point about democracy, well, you see, democracy was founded a long time ago, as we know historically. So the point about democracy is that it was founded by the Greeks in order to preserve the power of the people. It was a very powerful philosophical statement in which a society would be represented by the individuals and not necessarily by a rulership. But, well, guess what? The entirety of society has been represented, well, ever since mammals appeared, by a hierarchy that would rule literally everything. And that is the case of all, societal beings, okay? If you look at mammals, reptilians, or, these animals that have a more advanced perception of life, right? You see that they have a certain archetype of a structure, right? They have a patriarchal or a matriarchal society. Now, in the case of human society, usually has been represented by a ruler, a big one, usually in monarchies, right? You had kingdoms or empires in which a single person would hold the entire power. Nowadays, democracy has been proposed as something different, in which you as a citizen vote for a party to support you. However, the question is, do you think that your vote really counts? And you should ask yourself this question a lot of times, because most likely you will impulsively answer the question that yes, your vote definitely counts, but that only acts as a belief because you don't have any proof for that, right? A belief means accepting something without the necessity for proof. And well, that is basically another aspect of ignorance. Now, again, so many people may still cling to the old system of society and, authority, believing that authority will actually move their little finger to do something. But the question is, if this 1 year of lockdowns and, repression and literally all the rights that, well, basically you never had in this democracy or whatever way of government you had in your area, well, if you haven't been, let's say, convinced in this 1 year of pandemic that, well, everything is kind of against you as an individual and your liberties are being taken away under the presumption that it is done for your safety, right? Every time the governments and the authorities say the word safety, strangely it seems to be a code name for restriction, because every time you hear the word safety, you're basically getting more and more restricted. Lockdowns are getting even harder. Our children are forced to wear face masks and such, and it's always these restrictions, right? You're like not allowed to breathe now, right? You will most likely not be allowed to breathe later on, because first they come for your breath. Well, first they come basically for your mind, because technically there's censorship, you can't say anything. And basically, if you can think for yourself, you are an enemy of the state, right? Let's not forget that in modern democracy, the way we have it nowadays, right, we have these entities that rule over people. And, well, for people who may not know, democracy has kind of vanquished as of the early 90s, right? We had two great social experiments, right? We had democracy, and we also had let's say socialism. Now, these two kind of vanished by the 90s, okay, when socialism kind of like literally was vanquished, and, well, corporatism kind of started to elaborate. Of course, it grew slowly and surely in the democratic world of the United States, and then it spread over the world slowly and surely, acquiring new let's say territory, infiltrating its people here and there. And kind of nowadays people see that there are these mammoth corporations that basically rule everything. So when corporations rule literally everything, and you want to set up your own business, and, well, COVID starts and your business is sent to hell, and for 1 year the whole democratic system that so many people support don't do anything for your improvement, well, hopefully this kind of wakes you up and shakes you up from your dream, because if you keep dreaming, most likely you won't have much to lose anyways, right? So many people are still blaming the rioters, right? Because, well, people are rioting. So many people can't stand it anymore, right? Many people have been cooking their entire lives, and cooking is their passion, right? Many people want to have restaurants. Many people want to, organize balls and festivals. But guess what? You are not allowed, right? And so many people fight for this against their own freedom, because they believe that the state is still gonna organize some saving for them. But no, there is no such thing as a state. And, well, when I was very young, I would see society, usually I would write it with a capital S, as an organization of viruses that would simply ruin humanity. I've always have been fascinated, let's say, by the idea of small mental viruses, crumbling humanity, right? Infiltrating the mind and changing the behavior, changing the being, much like demons would, but, I kind of don't believe in the such. And, well, it's not that they don't exist, right? But, people place too much importance on meaning, and when they do, they come up with a lot of phantasmagorical ideas that aren't supported, right? And since people love running away from themselves, ignorance is in full bloom, or at least was up till several years ago, when people started waking up to different things. And of course now the pandemic is kind of shaking things up a bit more and more. Now the point is, if you're still convinced that the Democrats or whatever party, okay, this is not a video against democracy or whatever, but if you're still convinced that, the government will ever do something to your improvement, well, if after a year if you've seen only repression and it's like everything is being slowly butchered, the businesses are being closed, people are losing their jobs, no one seems to care, hospitals are closed, children are forced to wear face masks, imagine this, how much impact will have in several years when you will see a lot of your children turning against you, right? Because The fundamental aspect of a child is they are a very pure life, right? And they are also your mirror. So the question is, what are you doing as a parent, right, to ensure their well-being? Most likely you have been abused by your parents, by society and school, and obviously you've grown slightly narcissistic, and of course you'd want to abuse others, right? And you use the excuse that what happened to you must be imposed on others, right? At least as much, because misery loves company. So if you're that kind of person, know that you're creating a lot of karma, which, well, you will pay sooner or later. Because the child is your mirror. And of course, you are your own enemy, and if you teach the child to be their own enemies as well, well, unfortunately, you've also earned a new enemy, because alongside you, who is your own enemy, you will also have your children turn against you, and then probably you're gonna play those silly, innocent adult games in which, oh my god, you cannot understand your child, why is your child hating on you? But question is, what have you done for them to not hate you, right? Because most people still have this belief that, you gave birth to your child, you have the power to take their life away, right? You have full control and full dominion over them, which is utterly wrong. Such mindset exists, for example, in the idea of corporations. They believe that, well, many, not all of them, they believe that the world belongs to them, and, well, as you can see, everything is being shut down, and they use all the force and their resources to simply purchase everything. So basically, democracy has vanished a long time ago, and many people still believe in this, but, they're just brainwashed, because there is no such thing as democracy left. And if you take a look at democracy as it is, it's just a pathetic, a bit more modern version of the monarchy, because there is still a ruling body, okay? You no longer have all the power concentrated on a single person, but you still have a ruling body which is represented by less than 1% of the population of a country, and that actually has all the power, because they can decide whether a certain law is passed or not. So if those decide literally everything in your country, then where is the power of the people? Yes, surely they represent the power of the people, but I don't see forums and such in mostly, if not all, the countries in which, the citizens are actually asked, what are your demands, what are your needs, right? And, people vote for things that, let's say the country's forum will take into account, right? Yes, there are buildings being built, roads that are being reformed, but the schooling system in the whole Western society sucks utterly, because there's nothing else than, well, traumatized generations of people that get in there, and, well, they have the purpose to traumatize the youngsters, because, well, they've been traumatized by school and their own parents, and misery loves company, because that is the life cycle, let's say, of ignorant people. The trauma that they go to, they have to impose at least as much on the others, right? And that is why society has always developed itself based on unconscious behavior, right? Impulsive behavior. So the idea of democracy seems to be quite kind of fluke-ish, okay? Because, well, where is the power? You just have, once in 4 or 5 years, right, you go and place a vote on a paper, and, well, that's theoretically counted, and you don't even know if your vote counts that much, because, well, there have been accounts literally in all countries that, the voting system fails, or, there are people who lobby or do whatever illegal stuff, and, well, again, the population simply doesn't care, because ignorance, right? Whatever be, right? It's like a certain party comes up, and, whatever happens is like, nah, 4 years later we will vote again. The question is, where is your power, right? Where is your power? And now is the pandemic unfolding, right? 1 year already in. Now the big question is, where is your democracy? Where are your rights, right? The mega corporations are simply showing you the truth. There have been no rights, there have been written only on paper, and they were accepted because, well, for a long time there wasn't the power to simply induce so much repression, and there wasn't that much ignorance as there is nowadays, right? You had in the 60s and 70s and 80s, we still had artists that, well, they would create music to uplift the people. Nowadays, what do you have? Well, you have mainstream media, right? You have the news promoting fear. You have music that's made on computers. I'm not saying that computer-made music is bad, but most of it is kind of dumbing people down because it's just some primitive loops that don't share any emotion, right? Computer-made music can be used just like any music to uplift or to, well, downgrade human intellect, right? So the question is, where is your democracy? Where are your rights? And the question is, what are you doing to make sure that these are preserved? And if not, created and reinforced? Because the human rights, as we know, are definitely not taken into account. The very simple fact that you're forced to wear a face mask in this society should be an alarm, because first they will come for your breath, then they will come for your mind. They've already come for the mind of most people, but, well, now they're coming for your breath for sure, and then definitely they will come for your life, right? Because think about it. 1720, there has been a great, well, pandemic. 1820, there has been another pandemic. Now 1920 has also been one, and, well, guess what? 2020. So I'm not saying these are necessarily, controlled by people, but if these things, and of course these are written in history, so if you don't believe me, just go and look for them. These pandemics happen apparently exactly 100 years, right, in a cycle. Now, humans may have had ways of, dealing with this, or they have been answers of nature, right, to draw us on the right line, right? And then there's also the question why these have always been in Europe, right, and not in, other societies. Do they have any relationship with, the rulership type, or did they have any relationship with Christianity? Because you can't fool me or anyone who thinks for themselves that Christianity has ever been, for mankind, because you believe in a God of love that you must fear because they will judge you utterly and you will most likely end up in hell irrespective of what you do. So don't try to fool me with such nonsense, because your heaven and hell and your God only exist at the psychiatry, okay? Now, of course, people need to believe in something, so I'm not going to judge them if they believe in God or whatever. But, you see, there is a limit to how much one should believe in a thing or another thing, because ultimately people believe in something outside of them, just because they don't want to take responsibility and do something good for this society and to leave something behind them. That's why many people just live impulsively, and then they expect, by doing the same thing, right, believing in God and praying, or, I don't know, doing the same repetitive thing, they expect always different results. So the question is, isn't this kind of madness in the end? Because doing the same thing again and again and expecting different results, that's kind of the definition of madness. So all this being considered, hopefully this was, well, despite being kind of all over the place, hopefully this video was introspective enough. You are appreciated. Take care. Ferenc Board signing out.